So see my picture on the cover of the Stone. I'm coming for my brother. Stone. See my smile on the cover of the Rolling Stone.
Oh, Rolling Stone, you've changed, man. You used to be about the music, man. Truth be known, Rolling Stone's always had political writing within its pages, but a recent article has a lot of people yapping about it because it's calling for full-blown communism. 5 economic reforms millennials should be fighting for. What are they? Well, guaranteed work for everybody, social security for all, take back the land, man, make everything owned by everybody, and a public bank in every state. Who's behind this? A guy named Jesse A. Meyerson. Let's take a look at his Twitter profile. If you doubt this is about communism, just look at this. The guy says he is a full communist. It's right there. Hashtag full communism. Katherine Timpf is with Campus Reform. She joins us now. And Katherine, I think you would qualify as one of those millennials with your bell-bottom trousers and rock and roll orchestras. Is this what the kids dig these days, man? Communism?
Well, at Campus Reform, one of the things we report on is liberal bias on college campuses. This kid went to Bard, which is one of the most liberal colleges in the country, and you kind of see here how not having to defend your argument, if there's such a liberal bias, you don't ever have to defend your argument, you don't have very good ones. Everyone should just get a job. Why? Because unemployment blows. Everyone should just get money. Why? Because jobs blow. Are you kidding me?
And that's pretty much how he wrote it. Let's bring up the statement that he made about housing first, not the unemployment one, because you're right about not having to defend your. If we can move on to the next one, the one about housing. You said about not having to defend your arguments. My 13-year-old came to me and said, "Daddy, shouldn't we just have housing for everyone so that we don't have homeless people? Shouldn't the government give you housing?" This is what this guy wrote. He said, "Ever noticed how much landlords blow? They don't really do anything to earn their money. They just claim ownership of buildings and charge people who actually work for a living the majority of our incomes for the privilege of staying in boxes that these owners often didn't build and rarely ever improve." My 13-year-old thought that as a way to maybe fix homelessness, and then I explained to him how it actually works and that his great-grandmother lived under a system like that and waited 20 years for a new home. He immediately thought it was a bad idea.
Right. Apparently this kid can't understand that. He doesn't want anyone to own anything but the government. Doesn't he think that if the government had complete control, maybe they would become a little corrupt? This reads a little bit more like a Christmas wish list. A lot of these things aren't really possible. You can't just force a business to be able to afford something, or a government. Maybe, you know, Christmas cookies make you fat, so we should just make them stop making you fat. That, if I would have seen that sentence in there, I wouldn't have been surprised.
Well, here's what he said about unemployment and how to solve it. He says, unemployment blows. The easiest and most direct solution is for the government to guarantee that everyone who wants to contribute productively to society is able to earn a decent living in the public sector. But later on, where he says make everything owned by everybody, Katherine, he says, well, the government should just buy up all the stocks of corporations by issuing bonds. So the government's going to own everything, then everything's the public sector. This is a prescription for collapsing a country.
Absolutely. And if he doesn't mind if everyone owns everything, then maybe I can take the laptop off of his hands that he wrote his little article on. Most people kind of start to reconsider their beliefs when it comes to their own stuff. These are clearly just lofty ideals that he can't come up with any better argument with than, oh, this blows. Well, it's absolutely absurd that Rolling Stone would publish something like this.
It is. I mean, that's why we've been showing Stalin on the cover for the last little bit. Yeah, they've had left-wing writers. They've had right-wing writers. P.J. O'Rourke wrote for them for a long time. But, you know, this probably takes the cake. But let's play a clip from Jesse Meyerson's appearance on MSLSD, and I believe it's the Chris Hayes show, where Chris, you know, he's pretty close to a communist to begin with. Let's roll that.
There's nothing the right loves more than a good fight against communists, and they don't get them that often. And then here you were on Rolling Stone.
I will cop to identifying as a communist, and I'm happy to defend my political identity. But basically, the backlash was all about my political identity, and almost none of it ever mentioned the thing that I wrote.
So okay.
All right, so we've already talked about all the things that he's written, including the government taking all the land, and in having a bank owned by the government. Would you trust a bank owned by the government any more than you trust a private bank? We all need banks. Few of us love our banks. It's like the cable companies. You use them. You don't necessarily love them. Would you love it more if the government owned your bank, Katherine?
Absolutely not. The government is a business, which he supposedly hates businesses so much. He wants the government to just put money in people's accounts. The government is already taking huge amounts of money in the form of taxes out of accounts to pay for the existing services that they have to cover. This is absolutely ridiculous. The fact that he calls them solutions, a wish list, is not a list of solutions.
All right. As we mentioned, you're right for campus reform. Have you noticed a shift in your friends over the years as they've moved out of campus life and into getting a job? Have they moved away from the socialism that they were fed by the spoonful at college?
Some have, and a lot of it does have to do with Obamacare. Even in school, students are losing their health insurance, and then they're finding out, wait, Obama expected me to pay for all this? I thought he was my friend. I thought he was best buddies with Jay-Z, and Jay-Z is so cool. I guess I might have been wrong. Every day you see more and more stories about young people starting to turn away from these ideas, which are very prevalent on college campuses, almost to the point that other ideas are not accepted at all.
Yeah, well, it's the same up here, and hopefully a dose of reality changes that. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.